Good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. And today I have two guests with us. And I practice your name, but let's see if I'm gonna get it right. Artyom and Wallace. All right,
Yes.
all right. Introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
Hi everyone. I'm Artyom Zinchenko, right? I'm based in Germany. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist, researcher, and a lecturer at LMU University in Munich. So I'm a father of two kids. I love teaching. I love doing research, and enjoy reading about education and researching about education.
So I'm Wallace Pelo, and I live in different countries, including Philippines, Dubai, UAE, and Thailand. So like I kind of like travel around the region. I studied took up a PhD in educational psychology. And I've been a headmaster for 14 years. So I've been in the education administration ministry for that long. So and I have daughters currently in Australia. My wife is an early childhood practitioner, educator, principal of a preschool.
Nice. Okay. And you have kids yourself?
So yeah, so I have a daughter. She's like uh, turning 27 this
Oh
year.
wow. Okay. Nice.
Taking blockchain.
She does blockchain?
Yeah, yeah, that's her like master's graduate studies.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, gentlemen. So y'all are all around. I'm trying to get on your level, Wallace. We just travel this country. I want you to travel countries. We're gonna get there though. But so gentlemen, tell us what brought you here. What have you all created?
Wallace and I, we are co-authors of a book. The book is called Wisest Learners. And the book is dedicated to our view, like our approach to education. So what we advocate for is a holistic approach to learning. So the story, like Wallace has his own sort of way to get to the book, and I have a bit of my own. And for me, it started from my son going to school and experiencing difficulties, and I had to. I mean, as a researcher, I wanted to use a more kind of research-backed, proven approach to help my son adapt better, learn better, be better at school, and it's public school, and right. So and the Wallace was a headmaster for so many years, and I was approaching him for like advices. How should I behave in different situations? And we've spoke about different research studies on how to learn better, how to improve motivation, how to beat test anxiety if necessary. And at some point we realized that many sort of traditional approaches to learning that are available out there, like in different books or programs, they advocate for something kind of a specific view on science, like improve your memory or improve your learning methods or mindset, things like that. However, when we look into research articles and we look at how different factors influence, let's say GPA or years of education, educational success, then every individual factor on its own contributes only some portion of variance in educational success is explained by these factors. So we thought that there must be a more holistic approach to this, so an approach that encompasses multiple pillars or multiple main points, and then we're trying to identify these most important factors that influence educational success and in our book, we try to describe these factors. We develop a model for a holistic approach model, and we discuss it in our book. Our kind of approach to this was to use a kind of user-friendly or reader-friendly language to speak about more complex research studies, and to offer different stories, from history, from our own experience, and from scientific publications to share what we've learned in these years.
Nice. Okay, so
So,
you both met up in where? What country were you in?
it was remote. We were like
Oh, it was
different.
remote learning. Okay. Because you said that your son was in his school, basically.
Oh, sorry for making this not clear. So my son was
Okay.
not in school of Wallace, but just knowing that he has so many years of experience as a headmaster.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I
Okay.
didn't have. I mean, I'm teaching, of course, right? But my students are younger adults already, so some of the situations I faced, challenging with my son, I didn't experience as a teacher
Okay.
myself, right? So I had to ask someone who is more experienced, right?
Gotcha. So Wallace, what's your take on this? How did you get to writing the book with Artyom?
So when I was running our school, I observed the need of students being able to optimize how they study. And it was interesting to me that most of the time, not just in our school, but many schools, including where I studied and when I went around different countries, it would always start off really with the what and sometimes the why, the curriculum and why it's so important to learn these subjects. But rarely will a school be deliberate or intentional in teaching the best ways to learn. So they would provide trainings for teachers in terms of how to be effective teachers, and that's normal. But in terms of the students, the ones who will be receiving, rarely will it be looking at it from that perspective, and for good reason. Schools are very pressured to teach so much, right? There's only so much time in a day, in a month, in a year. So there is always that pressure to finish what's required by by the by the state, by the country, by the owners of a school, so or the city government. So with that, I thought that there's that need, and at the time I was trying to look for one. When I couldn't find it, and I was already taking my PhD in educational psychology, I noticed that there were some really good research studies that are out there. It's like, wow. And sometimes I would, in my heart, like cry out, like, wow, this is so good. It's like, how come it's not in the general public? How come it's not, you know, pervasive to everyone? Like, it's like, how come it's not so real? It's not being practiced. Then I recognize, yeah, actually because of several factors. Many of them are like hidden behind paywalls. So our subtitle is "Unlock the Secrets to Your Child's Academic Success," and it's so true because many of these are like almost like secrets because they're hidden behind paywalls. The research studies, anyway. Uh, at the same time, many of them are very technical in terms of like the papers are written really for those who have been trained to read academic journals. So with that, it's kind of like it's not easy to get into them, get to these materials, and then to be able to understand and to be able to apply. So we saw that gap. At the same time, when I got to talk to Artem about it, then we saw the importance and the value of being able to bridge that gap. Like we didn't even really have to do our own research in terms of like uh, doing it in a lab ourselves, but we just have to look at what's out there and to be able to put it together so that the research results will be more impactful and find a better voice, and not just within the confines of the academe, which in as much as it's necessary, but it's just much more beneficial for society to have to be exposed to these wonderful gems.
Nice, nice. Okay.
Maybe
So go ahead, hon.
wanted to just maybe comment, like I really like what Wallace said, and then oftentimes it's not only that research papers and science and lab findings are kind of hidden. They are in a way, but also the goal, the aim of researchers is not to really share what they found. The aim of a researcher to publish a paper, to get citations, to advance in your career as a professor eventually, but yeah, not to communicate these research
With the masses,
exactly.
yes.
It's not that you would use the language that would be most appropriate for, like, user friendly. It's not that you would interpret your results in a practical sense, right? So they would you have two conditions, and you have a t-test, or a p-value that should mean something, but most of the time it's known or meaningful for people working in this area, but not necessarily for parents, not necessarily for teachers. So yeah, so that was also one of the motivations to to share this, what we've just learned, for our own purposes.
And like you say, you put it in terms where people can understand, as opposed to reading a academic journal or article or research paper. You're able to actually, dumb it down basically for us to be able to take it.
Yeah,
Very, go ahead.
please.
Like and I see that I guess as someone who grew up in church, where I would every Sunday attend church, and I will hear our pastors, preachers talk about very deep scriptural truths, and they will of course use stories, to be able to connect to the audience, right? So in a similar manner, not that we're talking about religious or faith-based concepts, but we use a lot of storytelling in the book to be able to help our readers to have a deeper appreciation of the concepts, because we want to share like these gems, but we want the people who will be reading these to find a lot of to benefit and to find a lot of value in what they're reading, because we know that people are so busy nowadays, right? I mean, like, to spend time to watch a video for 15 minutes is nowadays it's so long, right? 15-minute video is like so long. So unlike before, like, people can sit down and watch that long, but nowadays it's so it's not easy to get people to read, to stay put, right? So we wanted to do the heavy lifting, where we will do the research, like what really is like important, right? What are the things that are necessary if you really want to make an impact? These are the ones, right? We did the heavy lifting already, so you don't have to, in other words, right? And we also, the reason that we came up with the parent edition first is because we believe in the huge influence of parents, because they're we're coming out with our teacher edition, right? That's kind of like our next one, which will be out in the next 2 months. But we value the immense role of parents in the lives of children, and with that, it's something that we believe will be very pivotal and strategic. Like, if we're able to impact parents in understanding and being able to apply what we have shared in the book, then so many children will benefit as well.
Yes, yes, yes. Parents are their first model. So it's like, and they're the ones who essentially have the most influence over the kids, generally speaking, when that relationship is there. So you're the headmaster in the Philippines. You're at a school in the Philippines.
I retired 2 years
Oh,
ago,
okay. Two
and
weeks
then
ago?
no, 2 years
Oh,
ago.
two. Okay. I was say, oh, congratulations. Okay,
I
two
was
years ago. Congratulations, nonetheless. Yes,
very
but
pleased.
okay, but in the Philippines.
Yes, and I'm one of the co-founders of one of the probably the largest homeschooling community in the Philippines. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, nice. So when you were headmaster at the school, was there heavy parent involvement?
In our school, there's just a balanced parental involvement. Yeah. I wouldn't say like heavy, like they're there. But the culture is like there's a lot of trust in the school.
In the school?
So 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 in terms of involvement, I would say relative compared to other schools, I would say probably more balanced.
More
Just
balance.
more balanced because it's like it's in a way it's giving space to the teachers to be able to do their thing without the parents hovering, but at the same time, enough involvement on the part of the parents to know what's going on, to be engaged in the lives of their children while they're in school. So that's why it's a bit balanced.
Okay, can I ask, like, what's the school setting like in the Philippines? Like, can you give us a feel for how your school day actually runs there? In
Oh,
comparison, because we're in the States. I have listeners from all over. However, majority, like 97% of the listeners are definitely in the United States. So, just like I haven't thought to research, okay, how do they do it in the Philippines? So how is, education, like the day spent in the classroom, or is it even in a just one classroom, or how does that look?
okay. So, well, it's hard to uh like our school is just one of like
Of
I would say
course.
like over 1,000 schools in the Philippines. But but in our school, it's we start the school like around 7:15 a.m. Yeah, and then students get dismissed at around 3:30 ish, depending on their grade
Okay.
level. Of course, the younger will get dismissed earlier. There are I would say of course there are co-curricular activities,
Mm.
sports and arts and all that. So these are optional. Yeah, maybe you can ask specific questions. So,
Okay, so what are your class sizes?
oh, around 25.
Okay, that's the same. That's about here also. Okay, so is there one teacher, two teachers? What grade level were you at?
Oh, I was
Eight.
handling grades 1 to 12.
Oh, shucks. So you were that's all of them. 1 to 12.
But
Okay, so that's all of them.
yeah, because
Okay,
as head,
so
I have to handle the whole school.
yes. So the students are desk wise, like they're sitting at a desk all day, listening to one instructor.
Oh, no, the setup is like the students get to listen to multiple teachers in a day.
Okay.
So probably at least like 6 teachers in a day.
Okay.
That's
Even the
every
young ones, even the first through fifth grade, like even those
um,
kids.
there will be less.
Okay.
Probably like the youngest ones would probably have like three, or the least would be like two. But
Okay.
average, I would say three.
Okay. I mean, it's sounding like the states. Okay. Okay. So RTM, because your son was where in Germany? He was in when you
Right. He's
found like there was a little issue going on or a little disconnect.
right. So he's still like we are still in Germany in Munich, and my son is 10 years old, so he's now
Okay.
in third grade, and I mean I have a bit of experience of how the U.S. schools are, but maybe high school more, not the elementary
Mm-hmm.
school. And the settings are quite similar, I'd say, to what Wallace described. This class sizes are about 25 students, but right now in third grade, it's most of the time a single teacher who's teaching, and only sometimes teachers would switch. And the math, the German, English, it's the same teacher teaching, and then we also have some like physical education, that would be a different teacher. And then there's also like crafts where they can what do you call, like cut things and build something with their hands. That is a different teacher as well. And right, so in Germany, just what may be interesting for you, there is it's impossible to be homeschooling your child. So it's like it's by law called a Schulpflicht. So it's like every child has to go to school, and it's strict. So right, so the homeschooling is not available for various reasons, I guess. For trying to integrate kids, making sure that there are no sort of communities that are not involved into school system. That's my sort of view on this, right? I didn't see the official motivation for not letting homeschool happen, but yeah.
Oh, wow. So that's not even an option there. That is nice to know. Yes, I was not aware. Oh man, I don't like that. I don't like that, but that's fine. So what issues did you see? Because you said that was part of your motivation for writing the book. What issues did you see as far as with your son that was like, okay, no, this isn't how he best learns, or oh, I think they should try a different approach? Like, what were you seeing?
So for my son, it's like learning difficulties, learning new material, learning language. So he he's getting extra help, studying and getting extra German classes, extra whatever we're learning. We need to do it efficiently, otherwise it wouldn't work, right? So has to be done like repeatedly and correctly, right? And we also have some motivation issues, self-control, control beliefs, and it's getting better. So, right. So, I mean, with the right approach and time and patience and love, so I think we're getting there. And right. So, I to be honest, like I was talking to Wallace, right? I think homeschooling would have worked better for us, and if there was such a chance, I would have definitely opted for a homeschool. And it's difficult to say. I don't know if homeschool is suitable for everyone, but I'm definitely confident that the public school, like a general school, is not suitable for everyone, and it's good to have an option to
yes, because homeschool is not suitable for everyone. That's reality, and that's fine. But having the choice is very, very important to be able to. But in understanding, because you even spoke on it, like you're also combating whatever you feel like he's lacking in the public school. You're still homeschooling in sense, right? Yeah. So. Yeah. Wallace, so you say you lead the largest homeschooling community or organization?
Co-founded it. So
Co-founding it. Okay.
But I'm not involved with it now because I'm focused on the publishing. Yeah. The organization is called Homeschool Global.
Homeschool Global. Okay, nice. And they are based in the Philippines?
Philippines, but also has presence in other countries, supporting different communities in the region.
Nice. Hence the word global, homeschool global. That would I gotcha. Oh, you guys are really got your hands a little every which way. So research purposes, I know, have been great. What are some of the things you discuss in your book? How do we connect with the wisest or create the wisest learners?
One of my favorites in the book, and I'm going to add a little bit more, because after the book, it's like, oh, we learned a bit more. So it's always like that, right? Yeah. So after you taught something as a teacher, it's like, oh, I wanted to teach another thing, right? So it's like, yeah. So we'll have a second edition soon. So
Nice.
it's like the power of words, and we were inspired by Dr. Adam Grant in his research about the use of proper use of words. So this one's about using noun, using noun, adjective, and verbs. So
Okay.
so if and we just had the book launch like last week, and I shared this example when I had a conversation with my daughter, and in our conversation about a month ago, she was sharing her conversation with her friend, and I felt that, oh, she showed a lot of empathy in that conversation. So I told her, her name is Sweet. Sweet, you showed a lot of empathy. You are a person of empathy. Yeah, because we wrote the book about this, about the use of nouns and verbs. So when we use a verb to describe somebody's action, it's good. Yeah, if it's positive, right? It's good because we're describing it, we're affirming that, oh, you did something well. But when we use noun, it's even stronger. So you can compare the difference between just saying, I'll include the adjective too, right? So if you say you showed a lot of empathy, or you showed empathy, the second one is you're an empathetic person. But the third one, which is like most powerful, you are a person of empathy, right? Because now you connect it to the person's sense of identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you want something to be affirmed, reinforced as a parent, something that's positive, we have to learn how to use nouns to affirm that. Now, on the flip side of it though, if we want to call out something, which as parents we need to do from time to time, right? We need to make corrections, areas for improvement. So let's say our child did not tell the truth, right? So we can always say, Johnny, you didn't tell the truth yesterday. Or Sweet, you didn't tell the truth yesterday, when we were having dinner. So that's a verb. But it's still better to focus on the verb, on the action, right? Rather than if we're gonna say, you are a liar.
Yeah,
Now you're
because
going
then
to
that
like
becomes them. Yes.
your sense of identity, so you connect that, right? So if it's negative, use verbs. If you're going to make it a positive thing, you want to reinforce it, use nouns. So that's really one of my favorite, because even for me, I have to be very conscientious about it, like noun, verb, noun, verb, and whether it's actually not just with children, right, with people too, right? If you have your staff, you work with colleagues, these like crucial or difficult conversations that you might have with them. It's like just important to know that if it's something that's positive, it's different, right? When people will say, you know what, Jay, you're a person of compassion. Like wow, like that,
Like, yes, like thank you.
right? Right?
Why thank you.
It's it's special. I mean, like it's also nice if it's like, oh, you showed kindness. Oh, that's good. But it's special when say, wow, you are a person of kindness.
Lovely. Yeah, I'm going to use that. Thank you, Wallace. You just taught me something. I will definitely move up. My oldest will love that. She loves being like talked about and poured into. Like she loves, and she'd be like, oh, okay. And but kids really hold on to that type of things. Like they listen to that. Even when like you spoke on the lying, I make it a point not to say lying. It was like, okay, that wasn't the truth, or why do you tell that story? Like, like why did you create that story like that? That's not how that went, or something like that. We don't like, for a while they've grown out of it now, but for a while they would have like lie was like a curse word to them. Like, oh no. Like, what did you say? Like, so we always say, oh, well, that's not the truth, or you're not telling the truth right now. Like, things of that nature, as opposed to the negative, like, oh no, you're straight up lying. Like, so, but that does take a conscious effort of knowing, like, okay, this word will affect them in this way, this word will affect them in that way. So which way we want to go.
Right, Jen.
Yeah.
And the approach, like you were saying that, at some point, what we advocate in the book is the automaticity. So all the methods and all the kind of views on education and, child development that we describe should become a second nature. And that's why we advocate that it should, start, such a wisest learner approach should start early, right? So that it becomes a second nature. So you don't have to think, how do I learn better? Or what words do I use? It's the way you do it.
It's
You kind of
nature,
learn
yes.
once that it's the best approach, but then it becomes like a part of your character. And
Yes.
maybe I also wanted to share one sort of part of research we discussed that is relevant to us on control beliefs and on ego depletion. So that is the work that was performed with students, and they were asked before the experiment. They were asked to not eat for several hours before they came to the lab. So they came hungry, and then one of the groups was allowed to eat chocolate chips, and in a room that was filled with the smell of chocolate chips. And the second group was in the same room, and they could smell this, like the chocolate chips, and they could see other people eating chocolate chips. But this group was only allowed to eat vegetables if they wanted.
Oh,
So they were hungry, but there was like a smell and the view of other, fellow students eating chocolate chips, but they are only allowed to eat vegetables, if at all, if they want. And afterwards, so that was the stage two. So hunger. Then they have this intervention of 15 minutes of eating, and then they were given a task. So there was like a set of logical questions, puzzles they have to kind of riddles they have to solve. And at some point, the task that they had to perform was intentionally made so difficult that it was impossible to solve. There was not.
Is this with the group that had the vegetables, or is this with both groups?
Both groups. Both
Okay.
groups. So like all students continue to the next stage, basically. And what researchers were evaluating, how long will it take them before they quit? We have to quit at some point. There is no solution, right? So, but what they found is that the group of students who had to suppress their desire to eat chocolate chips, right, because they were not allowed to eat chocolate chips, they quit early. So they gave up earlier, some 10 to 15 to 20 minutes earlier, relative to the group that was allowed to eat chocolate chips, right? So the one that did not have to, use their executive functions, part of the brain that suppresses certain wishes, desires, or suppresses certain actions. And for a long time, it was believed that we have some sort of an ego depletion. So our ego, our ability to do things, to be perform some actions, are like a battery, and at some point it gets depleted. You're low, and then you cannot, like, you have to give up at certain tasks. You have to give up at certain activities you do. And later on, it was found on a large sample of participants that actually there is the ego depletion depends on personal beliefs about one's sort of battery, like mental capacity. But people who did not believe that they have such a thing as a battery in their, in their brain that can be depleted, they tended to perform for longer, with more effort, and were able to control their behavior better, right? So it's basically the values that the mindset, the values that you have in your mind that drive your performance. And so the way you, as a parent now, knowing this, right? So I would, of course, would like to try to teach my son and my daughter that they can do better, they can do for longer. There is no such a thing as, mental limitations. There are no limits. So you don't deplete your energy. Now you're incapable of doing things. You should always strive. You should try again and again, and it will work out. So this view on mental capacity is super important. So that's one of the studies we also discussed in the book.
Okay, there was no correlation with the look with the other group having like a sugar rush though, since they had the chocolate chip, and that's why they kept going longer. There was no correlation there.
I love your scientific approach. I mean, you should, yeah, right? So there was a third group. There was a third group that did not have any food. They did not eat for 5 hours and then went straight to the task performance. And there was no difference between the chocolate chips groups and the
In that
control.
group.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
I follow. Okay,
Right.
cool. Yes, that's like affirmations. We talk about affirmations a lot. Being positive and pouring into kids in a positive manner that so that what they're repeating in their head is like a more of an encouraging factor as opposed to telling themselves they can't do. Like my girls definitely know, like we big on no limits. There's no limits. Oh, you want to do it? Oh, it's just about how figuring out how. Like my daughter, we were swinging one day and she was like, can we go to the moon? Because the moon was out and stuff. And so she's like, can we go to the moon? And I said, I'm not sure. She's like, well, we just need the right equipment. And I was like, and she was like 6 at this time. So it's just like, you know, her processing like, oh no, we can get up there. We just need to make sure we have the proper things, the proper gear to be able to get up there. But there's nothing stopping us from getting up there though. So
Yeah.
it's like I didn't shut down that. Like it's like, girl, we can't go to the moon. Like we ain't got no spaceship. We got this. We ain't got that. Like oh, I was like, oh yeah, sure. Like, like you want to go?
Right. Yeah. That I think it's a really good approach to things, right? So it's a matter of having the right tools and right equipment and right like sequence of actions, but there is nothing that stops you, right? So
Yes, yes. So with your in the Wisest Learners, do y'all focus more on the individual? Because I know you say you have a teacher edition coming out too that's going to help with the classroom setting wise, but I feel like the issue with the public school model is that it's not on an individual level. It's on a generalized like standard of this is what they should be learning, how they should be learning, and at what time they should be learning it. And so that kind of gets lost because not everyone's able to learn at that time on that pace, you know, keep up with that because we're all individuals. So are you all approaching more on an individual level or on a I guess a standard like, oh, by age 4 they should be able to do this, by age 7 they should be able to do this?
it's more individual level. Sorry, please, Wallace, go ahead.
I know, yeah, it's highly individual. Because if at all, it's a family based. Yeah, because parenting and how the children will learn, but in the context of pretty much families.
Families, yes.
Teacher edition is individual as well. So
Okay.
we have a view on like child education as a garden with all different types of trees and different trees and different flowers would require different amount of water, different amount of sun,
Yes.
and it takes some time to for every child to be able to blossom, basically, right? So just needs some patience and the right tools again, right? The right conditions for a child. And our teachers edition is a bit more technical in a way that we have more emphasis on studies, given that we believe that teachers are more prepared to read that kind of literature. And of course we have more action calls, more examples, and the target audience in mind being the teachers and not the parents.
Gotcha. But is that something that will be able to reach at the level of having 25 kids in the class? They would be able to use those practices with, you know, without feeling like, oh my gosh, this is too much. This is overwhelming. Like I can't attack each child on an individual level because there's so many of them.
That's true. We believe it's still possible. We believe that the strategies that we offer still are applicable on a classroom level. But of course it's difficult. So many things are I guess it requires a lot of extra effort, a lot of extra desire to help from the teacher's perspective, which may not always be the case, may not always work well. So but that's what the book is for, I guess, right? So that to emphasize the importance of these.
Indeed, indeed. What's the teacher pay looking like over there? Look, is it a little bit higher than it is over here, where these teachers are wanting to do all this because they're being compensated and not being made to work 2-3 jobs to keep up with ends meet? Like, how is that looking over there? Are the teachers surviving or are they thriving?
I think there is a difference at different levels of school, right? Elementary school teachers, from what I've heard, um, like are not really thriving, right? And but they do not have to work. They do not have to have multiple jobs, right? And
Oh,
um, the system in Germany is slightly different, I guess. So there is a bit of social security and sort of the right. And teachers at like high school and gymnasium, so basically the better sort of more difficult, more prestigious types of schools, right? They earn more. And the cool, like interesting thing about German education is that after the fourth grade, the grade four, a child, depending on their performance, can go either a better school where there is a much better education, stronger curriculum, they have to learn more, have to perform more, or like middle school, or like medium difficulty, medium prestige school, or the lower one. And if you go to the lower school, so to say, it's much more difficult to get admitted to university eventually, because you need to pass some state exams to be able to study, like you're getting higher education. And if you if you go to a gymnasium, if you go to a better school, you're more likely to continue education, right? If you want to be a doctor, let's say, or if you want to be a psychologist, you have to have top grades, basically, right? So if you didn't go to a good school that prepared you for this, you wouldn't be able to make it. But the decision is made after the fourth grade.
okay.
The fate almost.
I know that's what I'm about to say. Like, you gotta decide early. You gotta have your career path a little set already. What, fourth grade is like 8, 7? What is that? I mean, not 7, 8. It's like 9.
Well, it's
Oh,
like
it's
10, 12, I guess, years old.
okay.
Yeah. Still, I think it's quite young, and at that age, I'm not sure if kids understand everything. Like they cannot see that far, and right, and therefore it's a lot of pressure on parents and a lot of pressure on teachers. So that's you have to teach well because my son has to go to gymnasium or something, right? So right,
Yes. Okay. Goodness. That's pressure.
that's definitely pressure, right? Yeah.
A lot of pressure. Okay. Do you want to share any other strategies? Like, what else do the wisest learners need to know, or what are some tools or tidbits that parents will benefit from purchasing your book?
Right, we have multiple, like we have for instance, for test anxiety, and then advices how to um, you know uh, avoid this, right? To take early steps to avoid test anxiety, and once it happens, or once the tests come, how to what should one do to not let it happen at later stages, right? So not put tests in between you, like in between, in your relationship with your child, right? So they should not motivate, should not influence your attitude towards the child, your love, right? So tests are not are not there for to define how you behave towards your child. And given that, if that attitude is in the family, then failure, like occasional failures, will not influence child's like thinking process that, oh my god, it will happen again now. They will not catastrophize in their mind, especially like in middle and elementary schools. Also, tests, from research, from our experience with Wallace, tests we should review tests as basically a way to identify what are the weaknesses and what are the strengths. What's the current state of knowledge that you have, right? So, do you need to improve something? Are you good at certain in certain area? So tests should be used as a marker, but nothing that defines emotional components like emotional
Yes.
attitude in the family, right? Uh, test anxiety can be a serious problem. It's certain,
Indeed.
right?
Yes.
And in well, I mean, maybe you could confirm, right? Like as a school teacher, because I mean, we read the statistics and we cited quite frequently in the book that on average, K-12 has 112 bigger exams and assessments in 12 years, and then there are, on top of that, there are quizzes and smaller tests, smaller presentations you have to make, and that's all evaluation. That's all sort of testing right? You get a grade, you get evaluated by a teacher, by your peers, and if you have a test anxiety, then one is screwed.
Yes, yes, no. That's the thing. Like you said, it should be used for an evaluation purposes, but it's like once a grade is associated with, that's what these kids start to embody. And so I always speak on the fact that, like, you ask a child, like, "Oh, well, how's school going?" And they'll be like, "Oh, it's going good," or I'm a B student, or I'm a C student, or they embody whatever grade it is, and that's that's their identity now. So that's what they speak from. Like, "Oh yeah, no, it's like this or that." But testing anxiety is really, really, really heavy, I feel. Because I was in the upper levels before I resigned. And just to even the kids who are advanced, the AP students, the honor students, all they have heavier, I feel, test anxiety than the regular, like, like kids who really don't, like, I'm here because my mom made me be here. But like I know I gotta pass these tests, and I ain't too worried about it. But the kids who are trying to strive and be all they can maintain A's, like, some kids have been making straight A's since kindergarten. And so test day for them is like, oh, like, I got to make sure I do all this correctly. So I feel like the test anxiety is really heavy. Speaking to any teachers, they'll tell you it's really, really heavy here. We are a testing nation, I feel, ever since the No Child Left Behind Act, with the standardized testing now being the way of life, it seems, from third grade on up.
Yep.
Testing is everything, and it's not. I don't feel like it's used on the evaluation purpose. It's like I don't know. It's like a fear mongering for teachers. It's it becomes identity for kids. Like, oh, I didn't pass my SOL or my FCAT or whatever, and they become in their minds failures. And also, I don't know if it's like that in the other countries, but these kids, when they don't pass tests or they don't test well, they get labeled quickly. And then it's like they get told that they have a disability, and then they embody that disability for the rest of their careers in school. And so I experienced a lot of kids reaching me in the 12th grade, still reading or writing on the third grade level. And I associate that with testing, because I feel like once they get those labels and they're telling that they're like, oh, you don't learn like the other kids, or you don't learn as well as them, or you don't learn this, it's like something like we talked about earlier that clicks in their head that's telling themselves like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not built like the regular kids, or I'm not like this, or they told me that I have ADHD, or I have this, or I have that. So I can possibly go and do well on this test. It's like they already embody it. And so they kind of shut down early on. And that's what I feel. I witnessed a lot of kids who had just shut down by the time they made it to 10th, 12th grade. I'm just talking to bodies that are just, still coming in the door, but their body, like, everything about them is just left at home, I guess. Because they're just there.
Yeah. So one study maybe I could share about this. I mean, in lots of research, we see that there is always a negative association. Higher test anxiety, worse performance, right? It definitely, hinders their performance. But then there's a big study on a large sample of participants. These are not school students, but college students preparing for a high stakes exam. And the students had 1 month to prepare. And the preparation was kind of based on a web program that gives them access to last year's questions that were, given on those exams. And so to do these, to get access to these questions, they have to log in and do all the training and sample test taking online. And so what researchers did, they kind of let you prepare for 1 month, and then you take a high stake exam. Before the exam, they measured your test anxiety level, and they found that there's again a negative association: higher test anxiety, lower test performance. Interestingly, though, like while you were training for this 1 month prior to the test, there are logs saved, unknown to participants. So researchers knew for each of the students, like I think it was almost 400 students taking the test, they knew exactly what was your sort of preparation level, how many hours you spent training, how well you trained for that test, right? And they found that the better you prepared, the less or like almost not negligible was the role of test anxiety. Although like both groups of students who prepared well and who prepared less well experienced similar level of test anxiety. Those who did prepare well, they did better, so they could overcome the test anxiety. So the learning itself, the learning strengths and effectiveness played a big role, right? And then we come back to like test anxiety, strategies, better learning skills, being able to memorize things better by studying it in the right hours, repeating what you've learned, taking notes correctly, repeating your notes. We speak a lot about that in the book. And going back to your example, like kids get like embody this view on test taking, and they it's almost feels to me like a learned helplessness. These studies with rats. I mean, don't want to compare kids to rats, but when a rat is placed in a cage and they electrocute. I'm not sure if there's a word, like they're electrically shocked. And in one group of rats, they have a place to escape, and they search for a place to escape, and then once they escape, they found a position in the cage that would not lead to electrical shocks. And the other group of rats has no such place. No matter where they run, they get shocked and shocked and shocked. And then at some stage, both groups of rats are placed in a cage where there is kind of a compartment where they're not shocked. But the group of rats that was sort of, that got the electrical shocks, no matter what, in the first stage of the study, did not even try escaping, right? Because they were like learned helpless. And I guess, unfortunately, if kids do not use the right learning strategies, they do not, learn the material. At some point, they feel, I tried. I read it 10 times, maybe like, rote memorization or, just simple rehearsal, the least effective learning approach, right? I read it 10 times. I still failed. Why trying, right? I tried it once, tried it 2 times, 3 times. It's a bad grade again. Like parents are angry. I'm trying my best. I cannot do it, right? So why not teach your children the right learning strategies early on, and avoid many complications along the way.
Indeed, indeed. Where can we find the Wisest Learners?
Amazon. You just type it Wisest Learners, and you'll find them there. And we're also on. You can look for us on Instagram, even TikTok, Facebook. So we have like weekly sharing of different concepts of Wisest Learners. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Before I let you go, I need 3 things that you would, both 3 from each, that you would give parents to think about as far as their learners go, their homeschool kids or public school kids, whatever kids, the kids in general. What's some 3 things that you would tell them that could help them further their educational journey?
Yeah, I mean, I could start. So there are, like, I would say the 3, the first thing that comes to my mind, it's the learning strategies. So with the right tools, the right approach to learning, any child can succeed. I have, experience with, children with learning difficulties. It helps. The right learning strategy helps. Second thing is motivation. It is important to build on intrinsic motivation, so motivation that comes from inside, that where kids enjoy doing things, and it's easier to not spoil it relative to kind of convert from extrinsic to intrinsic. So motivation and control beliefs. Children should believe their abilities to achieve things. that whatever the outcome depends on their involvement, on their effort. So I would say these are the three important points. However, they're not the only ones. I would
Of
not
course
just limit to three, right? That's our holistic approach.
Yeah.
It's a number of things. It's a bit more complex, but yeah, we hope with our books we're able to explain it in an easier way.
Of course. Wallace.
First is I encourage parents to be mindful in terms of what they model to their children. And it's just something that has to do with when they are interacting with their children. It's also when they're interacting with other people, how they're handling stress, how they're taking care of their pets, for example. So all these things, right? What are you modeling to their kids? Because what you're modeling will be something that will be probably be felt for generations,
Indeed.
right?
Yeah.
So that's one. Number two is I I would encourage parents to practice periodic retrieval. So being able to review concepts learned, lessons learned, sometime after the first time the lesson was taught to, or the first time the lesson, the concept was exposed to the child. And this is like very helpful in terms of like how to, in terms of reinforcing the learning, to be able to retrieve that information, to be able to process that periodically. So having that kind of a periodic routine will be very, very beneficial for the child's learning. And the third one is to spend enough time to reflect and be aware of how they're learning.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have to go through that process, if not instinctively, but to be intentional about it regularly, so that at some point it becomes automatic. By doing so, then one is able to will be able to optimize one's learning experience. And I studied economics for my undergrad, and one of the best things I learned there is that we at the end of the day we have scarce resources, and as a learner, we also have a scarce resource. You only have so much time, right? And also during the day we only have so much energy, right? So we get tired, right? Right? You get tired, I get tired, everyone gets tired. So, and you only have so much time. So how do we make the most out of it? So that's where actually knowing the tools, the principles, the strategies that we have shared in our book, Wisest Learners, will be very helpful, because we already did the heavy lifting for you. So you can just harvest our hard work.
Nice. Yes. And it's very appreciated. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for doing the research and making it plain and clear for the people to be able to take in and apply it to their children's educational journey. That's what everything is all about. Parents understanding that you don't have to have it all figured out. Like you don't. Like there are people who are putting in that work, who are doing that footwork for you to be able to access resources that will be very beneficial to the growth of not just yourself, but for your family as a whole. And to, trust the process and know that, there's resources everywhere. So check out Wisest Learners, parents, no matter the placement of your children, if you're homeschooling or if your children are in traditional school, understand that, you are still the leader, you are their model, you are their everything, you are the inspiration to the growth of your children. So step into that role, own that role, but know that you don't have to have all the answers. Wallace and Artyom are finding the answers for you. But Yes, so check them out. And in the meantime, in between time, just remember to homeschool your kids. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you.